But the VR, did you try the VR at the summit this past? That was a different world.
Putting together the box and stuff.
Yeah, putting together the box. I was like, I told Jay this when he was here. I was like, that was the first time where I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I get it. So
even like knowing where to stand on a job site, like that could be cool.
Yeah.
Because when you're new on a job site, you don't know where you can stand or where to be.
No, you have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Like, I'm in somebody's blind spot. No clue.
No. I still don't know where to park in a job site. Every time.
Don't park.
No. Yeah. Every time you're in the way. Every time. Like clockwork. It doesn't.
You may not be in the way, but they just say you are.
Yeah.
You don't have a beard.
Yeah.
You look too young to be out here. You're in the way.
No. Once you get a college degree, it's like you just become an expert at parking in the way. I think it is. Anybody with a degree. The engineers,
probably
soil tester, anybody.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on in the neighborhood? I think we'll cut this as maybe our BuildWitt May internal podcast.
Okay.
And then also just a Dirt Talk podcast. Because we're starting to publish our internal podcasts as external podcasts as well. Trimming just here or there as needed. But I'm trying to give people a glimpse into the company. If they care, cool. If they don't, cool. It doesn't really hurt us. It just serves to help us. So I think that's the goal of today, is just give people a glimpse into what the heck's going on at BuildWitt.
Okay.
Cool.
So you're going to do that?
So what's going on at BuildWitt? What's going on out there?
Notes on this?
Well, I was just at Bridgestone, and one guy was like, so how'd you get into like having a podcast business? And I was like, well, I don't really have a podcast business. I do a podcast, but there's a lot more to it. And I kind of explained to him, I was like, oh, I had no idea. I was like, yeah, a lot of people don't have an idea.
So you're still the podcast guy or the social media guy?
To them, I was the podcast guy because I did a podcast with Rob at Bridgestone. Oh. And then everybody was able to listen to that. It was published last week, I think it was. And so to anybody who had no idea who I was, that was the only reference point they had. So then to them, I'm the guy at the podcast
business.
Yeah.
It's hugely profitable.
It is. I think I should have just done the podcast business. You can make some good money.
You can, but we haven't figured that out yet.
No, we haven't figured that out yet. It's in the works.
Close.
It's in the works.
Joe Rogan, here you come.
Yeah. Did you see his recent deal?
It's insane.
Like many hundreds of millions.
Oh yeah.
I feel. Yeah.
Went up from 100.
Yeah. I think it was multiple hundreds of millions this time around.
I didn't see how long it was. Like 5 years or what?
I don't know. I know I didn't see duration. But I feel like the last deal, I mean, I guess it might have been 5 years ago, before COVID.
20 was it like 20 million a year?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. It was 150 million.
Somebody's going to fact check us.
Yeah.
Be like, we're completely off. Yeah.
But he's doing all right. So the podcast thing does work.
Yeah.
It definitely does work.
Yeah.
So I've talked to Jason a little bit. I want to focus less on creative. I think people know BuildWitt as a marketing business. One, they think of it as me. Two, they think of it as a marketing business. That's part of it. It's an important part of it. It's where we got started. It's booming right now. We're doing a lot of great work for companies all over the United States, some in Canada now too, which is cool. And even, I think, one project in Europe with a European manufacturer.
We talked. I don't know if that actually happened or not.
I don't know if it happened either. So that's one part. Get people in the door, attract, help companies market themselves, brand themselves, communicate who they are, why they do what they do. Then we've gotten into a few other things. One piece being the software and training, which is where you are. The other piece, events,
right,
which is where you are.
Yep.
And they're both now very significant pieces of the business.
Yeah. And hopefully you're more significant parts of the business in the future.
That's the plan. Yeah. And that's what I was talking to Bridgestone about today was, we have this marketing thing, but the goal is to do a lot more marketing for ourselves than anybody else, eventually, and focus more on ourselves as we go on further and further down the road, but really grow software, really grow events. But software's the focus.
Yeah. Events, I think. Events we could grow, but you kind of also lose that intimate setting when you get bigger and bigger. So I think we have to be careful with how big we grow events. But software we can scale.
What I was thinking about events the other day too was we could have, like, this is way future state, but maybe there's a smaller event in every state, for example. Yeah. Or like, I don't know. I mean, there might be future models where we can keep it small, but more regional at the same time, because I think there would be an appetite for that even. I mean, I've spoken to all these state paving associations, for example. It's like every state has a paving association and a concrete association and a utilities association. They all, like, every state has these. And I'll go, like, I went to Wisconsin's Asphalt Pavement Association. There's like 500 people at this meeting, which is substantial. I mean, some of them 500, 600, 700, 800 people. And it's like, it's not a niche, but it is kind of a niche. So it's like, I mean, why couldn't we have Dirt World Wisconsin? Not that that's happening next year, but.
Yeah, probably not next year. Maybe in 10. I think that's tricky is, like, for us to bring in the people that we think the Dirt World needs to hear from. Again, our goal is to bring in people that they don't hear from regularly.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
No.
And so it makes that price point a little bit higher than, the Asphalt Paving Association's event. So that's kind of tricky about it. But we really want them to have exposure to thought leaders that they don't. Like, that's how we're going to rise as an industry and make a difference.
And that's how I explain the Area Dirt World Summit it's just a completely different product. It's not, I think people, it's another event. Like, we've got a lot of events already. It's like, yeah, you do have a lot of events already. There's a lot of events, but this is a totally different product because you're going to hear from people that are like, I mean, the first time we did it, like, world-class speakers, like world-class. And then this year, world-class speakers. Like, these people, sure, we have some people from the construction industry and the dirt world, like a Herb Sargent, for example, but we have these individuals that it does not get any better than some of these people coming in to speak to this group, which is awesome.
Yeah, when I was at the summit, the Area Dirt World Summit last year, I remember at one point just being like, nobody's on their phones.
Mm-mm.
I'm standing in the back and I didn't see one phone in the 700 plus people that were there. And I was like, I couldn't remember when that had ever happened at any other event in the construction industry I've been to.
Yeah.
So the audience was pretty captivated by what they were hearing. And maybe even cooler is to, like, talk to some of these people who are training customers or we've stayed in contact with, and for them to tell us what they're doing from what they learned at the event. Like, hey, we're having this training internally now because of what we learned. That's pretty cool.
That's been the cool. I just talked to a guy from Tykert today, and he's doing training and development for Tykert, and he was talking about the stuff that he had learned from the summit and how he's implementing it at Tykert, which has 2,000 people or however many people it has. And just to think, like, wow, so we impacted this one individual that's trying to impact or impacting a 2,000 person organization. That's pretty cool. It's really, really cool.
I walked by Gearflow and I was talking to Ben, and he just said, we started talking about the summit. He missed it because we conflicted with AEMP's meeting and they had to go there. But he said, he goes, I heard it was successful. I'm not surprised. He said, you had a room full of early adopters listening to speakers from outside the industry that were super successful. That's a completely different meeting than we have in the industry.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, he got it for somebody that wasn't there. And then he went on later in the conversation. He said, yeah, I met this guy at Kellogg where he's educated. He kind of gets the concept to what, I'm not sure we did that on purpose, but we stumbled into it. And I think that's why it was successful.
Yeah. Well, and then, so we're bringing in these world-class speakers, and then we're also hand-picking some of the best stories and some of the best people from the dirt world to present. Like, I mean, how's the TED Talk? We probably can't even say it's TED Talk.
Oh yeah.
You just broke some rule.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear from the lawyers. Cease and desist letter. How
It's
is
a summit talk?
Summit Talk? How's
Yeah.
that going to be structured during the event? It's like
so-
10 minutes?
Yeah. So pre-con day, we'll have a stage with a room for 100 people, but we'll have 10 presentations, roughly 17 minutes, kind of similar to some other talks.
Yeah.
17 minutes in length that they give. And then we'll have the audience vote on which was the best of the 10. So they'll be moderated and we'll get we'll vote. And then the winner will be up on the main stage the next day.
That's right.
With 1,200 people.
In the submissions, you have 60, 70, 80.
No, there's 90 something. We're starting to go through them and pick the finalists.
We've been collecting them over the past few months, and I've seen them come. Have you seen these submissions?
Yeah, I read them.
They're insane.
Yeah.
They're insane.
I mean, there's some outliers that you can tell people don't realize the level of competition that they're competing in. You're like,
There's been a few. It's been fun
like,
to laugh.
yeah.
But there's really good one. And there's some, okay, you're not going to fit into the 10, but we really need to capture this. This is where we might have other venues to it was way beyond our expectations.
Yeah. And so we're able to handpick some of the best stories, best people in the dirt world. We're able to handpick some of the best speakers out there, period. And then we're also bringing over 1,000 this year of the top leaders in the industry, the most forward-thinking leaders in the industry, because they're there together.
You'll like get a kick out of this. I was with a contractor a couple weeks ago, and he said I had a few people on my bucket list that I wanted to hear speak live. He's like, year 1, I checked one of the boxes. Year 2, I'm going to check another box.
No kidding.
Jocko and Jesse.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many other conferences and meetings in the industry the speaker has brought their own DJ.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be a bit of a
I don't think most people know who he is in this world. I think once they see him talk, they're just gonna be mind blown.
He's not like polar opposite of Jocko, but he is way different.
I mean, almost as different as
but
it gets.
Wildly successful.
Yeah.
He has some wild stories. I look forward to hearing him.
Yeah. This is slightly off topic, but there's a guy that I heard spoke years ago. He was the CFO of a company called Health South. And it was one of the major companies that got caught up in accounting fraud during the Enron days. And he was the CFO. And so the CEO didn't go to prison. He went to prison for a few years. And that's his whole talk about it's just fascinating.
he's on the list for next year.
Is he?
Yeah. No, the wish list. I started putting the wish
good.
list. You sent it to me.
Okay, I already sent it to you. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think about it a lot. And I heard this guy in high school, so a decade plus ago. But it is just the wildest story about how he got caught up in this corporate corruption and then went to prison for it. And it was the CEO's idea, but he was the one that executed it. And so there you go. But it's people like that we're trying to bring in here. I mean, it's like Chad Wright, former SEAL. Jesse Itzler has founded many very successful companies and is married to a very successful entrepreneur. And then you just go down the list. You have Sal Frisella. I every time I scroll the list, I remember, I'm like, oh, they're also speaking. That is so cool every time.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting is like Dan and I were talking yesterday. It's not always apparent, and we have to work on this. We are a marketing company, so we need to refine this message, but it's not always apparent that everything we're doing is actually very connected. Mm-hmm. Like, marketing, software, events, like they don't seem that connected, but really it's very thought out, and it's all about our focus is on people and the people that build the industry. It's like the most important asset at every company, but we don't think of it that way generally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the winds are shifting and people are starting to realize that, but they make up about 18% of the cost of most construction companies, but they really account for everything, right?
Yeah.
People are the ones that are making the decisions on how equipment's run, how materials installed, how subcontractors are managed. So like they have the biggest impact on the bottom line. And so although everything we're doing doesn't seem connected, we're working on refining the message so people can see and understand how we're looking at it and how they are all very connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even the events, people are like, you're having an event. Like, yeah, but this is why. But once you explain it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I feel like once people come, if they weren't there last year, leaving, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Which was the coolest thing from this past year's, was everybody coming out of it. I think that's like, I get this. And it's hard to explain, but I feel like the biggest piece of feedback I took away from the first Area Dirt World Summit was that like, it was just different. It just felt different. And yeah, it just felt different because we had all of these great leaders in one room for the first time. There'd never been a group like that, these early adopters in this industry, brought together before in that high of concentration, in all in one place.
It was a cool event. I will say I feel a little bad though, because I ran into a few people since who were like, oh yeah, we met at this summit. We met at Area Dirt World Summit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't remember because there's a lot of people, and I'm not the most social person. I do it. I feel like I've learned to be good at it, but it really like wears me out. So at the end of Dirt World Summit day, like I am smoked.
Yeah.
Like wore out. And so I don't like, I felt so bad. I didn't even recognize them at all. And I was like, man, I need to figure out how to be better at that next year, but
it's difficult. Hard. Yeah. I'm trying to figure that one out too. I think all three of us, we just get worn down by talking, and then Jason just gets more powerful. He's
like some anime character. Like you just get level ups.
Yeah.
It's like a 90s basketball game. I'm on fire.
He can't get enough of it. Yeah. And then it's not just the main summit, but we're also having a smaller event this summer, June 4th through the 6th, that is at Knife River's training facility.
Yeah, we decided to do some deep dive, smaller audience, deeper dive on a topic. So we did one at First Forum at the end of February on attracting and recruiting people into the industry. And then June 4th through the 6th, we're going to Knife River's Training Center in Albany, Oregon, and doing a deep dive on training and development. So if you don't have a training and development program and you want to create one, this will be a great venue. If you've got one and had one for years but want to take it to the next level, they not only have one of the nicest training facilities in the country, definitely worth a visit, but they have one of the best training groups in the country. And so they've got a 12 person full-time team just dedicated to training for Knife River, and then train in the state on CDL licenses and have one of the highest pass rates. So they've figured out adult education and hands-on with this beautiful facility. So we're going to be doing deep dives. JP Donnell from Echelon Front, who ran training for the SEALs and now runs training for Echelon Front, is coming in to give a half day of his, lessons learned, building training programs and, hands-on and simulation-based training and things like that. So we'll be doing all of that. Brian Gray, the CEO of Knife River, will be coming in to tell the Knife River story and talk about their training program.
I don't know, as I sit here and think through it, I don't know if I can say it's the nicest, and I think nicest is up for debate when like the
IUOE.
Yeah, IUOE facility and like other facilities come to mind, but I would say it's by far the most well thought out training facility in the United States when it comes to heavy construction and heavy equipment. I think I can safely say it's the most well thought out because I'm sitting here thinking through the different things Dan took us through when we were there. It is just like every detail is so clever. Everything is thought through. Everything. And even like if I'm running the blade in their arena, they can stream what's happening within the blade from multiple camera angles on the machine, outside the machine, with the audio from me and the instructor anywhere in the world. Instantaneously. It's like stuff like that. It's like, how'd you figure this out? Why'd you do this? And they're like, oh, well, we did this for this reason. It's like, man, you thought through everything. It's spectacular.
I think the other thing that you realize is like Dan has been there basically since the start of the training. So like, it's one thing to go into somebody who has a world-class training facility and be like, but we're these little small guys. We can never do that. But Dan did a really good job of saying like, yeah, but you can start somewhere because we didn't have this.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just slowly built it and we saw improvement. We saw, how it was working. The company grew. and now it can be what it is. But I thought that was one of the things I was most impressed, because they did a little workshop at the Area Dirt World Summit. And so I thought it was kind of cool just to hear not only what does a world-class facility look like, but how do you get from nothing to that?
Yeah.
And Hoopa will be sharing they're coming in from the East Coast, and they have a really nice academy. It's not at the same expense level as Knife Rivers, but it's definitely one of the nicest ones on the East Coast. And we had an event there, and they kind of share, but they'll be coming in to share about their program too. So we'll hopefully have some really good attendees that can not only learn from the instructors, but learn from each other on how to improve training.
Yeah. So that's the event side of things. And then I would say the most significant piece of our BuildWitt puzzle moving into the future is product. Software, what we call product internally, because we're sophisticated now. We're refined. We're a technology company. Yeah, we're a tech company. And that has been going in May for 2 years now, which was the launch of it initially.
That was our MVP product, minimally viable product.
Yes. So we technically have been in the software game for almost 2 years, technically speaking. So we're still pretty new to figuring everything out. But I guess, can you explain where we are today, and then we can talk about where we're going?
Yeah. So we obviously have micro training. It's the focus of our platform currently. And the idea there is it's hard to train in the industry. Like you'll hear people like, we train when it rains, and different taglines, but anybody who's really been a part of the industry knows it's hard, because you say like, hey, we're going to train this Friday, and then you have a client or a job, or you get rained out on a Tuesday and you need to make up. And so it's easy for it to not happen. And so we don't think we can replace in-person training, but we think we can supplement it really well. And how we do that is through micro training. And we recommend it's done every day. It just becomes a part of your daily, startup. So I tell people micro training in our software solution really is a catalyst to developing a learning culture. What I mean by that is, like, in honesty, if you bought our product and thought, hey, because I bought their product, we're going to be good at training, you're probably going to be disappointed, because there's a lot more to it than just watching micro training videos every day or a couple every day. But if it's done well, it can be a catalyst for good discussion each day. What I mean by that is, and Jennifer and I were working on some micro trainings for this specifically to share with all of our customers. But like, if you were a 20-year veteran to the industry and you were new to the industry, instead of you just starting out your day and the foreman saying, this is what we're going to do today, and then let's go do it, and the foreman gets frustrated because nobody knows what we're doing, we can start to model like good communication habits by having the two of you watch your micro training videos at the start of the day, and then taking 5 minutes and maybe 10 minutes, I think it would be time well spent, to say like, okay, hey, so Dan, you're new to the industry, and what video did you watch today? And maybe you respond, well, I watched the one about cutoff saws. Great, what'd you learn? You tell us what you learned. Then I go to Aaron and I say, Aaron, you've been doing this for 20 years. You've probably used a chop off saw, thousands of times. What would you add? Now all of a sudden, just that small tweak to a process, we now are pulling all that legacy information out of these experienced veteran operators and people in the industry. And we're starting to transfer that knowledge, which we need to do quite quickly. And when you do that, all of a sudden you start having conversations. And if you can carry that into your safety meeting and your quality meeting and have the same level of communication, you will change your company. Like, that is the most underutilized meeting, I think, in the industry. And you and I have seen a lot of those. It's very rare that it's not just a talking to.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, this is today's plan. Here's the risks. Here's the safety. Please sign off on it. And so that software solution can do that. can be a catalyst to helping you do that. I'd also just add our content has really matured. So I hate using numbers because it's always changing. So I'm going to be on the low side. We have 1,000 videos, 1,000 plus videos for training. And these are micro training videos. They train from communication, mental health, physical health, fitness, and then into the skills, grade checking, operating equipment, and on and on and on. We're working on adding concrete right now. We're just continuing to mature that. And then we have over 500 of those videos have been dubbed to Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really trying to work hard to have a platform that's bilingual to help all the Spanish speakers who are in the industry. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I think when people think training, they think these large blocks of training, which is, I think, how training has been historically done in construction. A lot of other industries is we're going to do 8 hours of training today or whatever it is. And I think we've created a product that doesn't solve anybody's problem necessarily. It's not the easy button, but that it does set the stage for that more continuous training.
Yeah, and it ends up being substantial. So Jurgensen, who really just fully got on the platform this year.
Yeah.
So Jurgensen has a lot of users. I think around 1,100. I was just doing some quick math. They've already completed 26,000 lessons.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and that was like this year. So you think about, I'd say on average our videos are probably around 3.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you start thinking like they're approaching like 100,000 minutes of training.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Well, and to create the return they need on their investment, they just need to avoid like potentially one instance of equipment damage or one injury, God forbid. It's not that much improvement to create the ROI in these construction companies because there's so much money and there's so much in just increment, like there's so much to be gained in just these small incremental improvements with even just one person. And so the bar is very low from like a rate of return standpoint. And then once you get over that, which I think is very straightforward for any company, then it's really, now you're like molding your culture and changing leadership and communication and really elevating the business to get to that next level.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting, and I spoke about this at HCSS, is that this notion that I can't afford to train.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I thought the same way. So like for what it's worth, I thought the same way. But I started doing a fair amount of research. And what was interesting is if you look at CFMA data, which gives you kind of like industry averages on the costs within construction, labor makes up about 18% of your cost on your revenue for the largest share of contractors in the dirt world, I would say. And so if you decided you were going to invest 3% of your labor cost, which the Construction Institute would say if you invested 3%, you could see up to a 30% increase in productivity. It seems like a big number to me, but it's quite possible with the amount of rework. We were talking about how much rework there is in the industry and so forth. So it's quite possible that you could reach those numbers. But what was crazy to me is even if they only received about a 10% increase and they invested 3%, most companies are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars each year.
Mm-hmm.
But even crazier is most bidding situations, the data suggests the difference between first and second bidder is over 6%. So they're leaving 6% on the table on average, which this few times I've asked people like, hey, what would you be, what's acceptable? And most often the number I get is 3 to 5. Like that's a good bid.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, okay, well, let's just take that same 3% and let's assume if I bid 3% of my labor costs as I'm going to invest in training and I pass that cost on to the owner or the general contractor, it's one of my costs.
Yeah.
So I mark it up. It only changes most people's bid by like 0.7%, meaning you could literally start tomorrow, including training as a cost in every bid. And statistically speaking, you would not lose one additional project in a year. And it's how I think about this is like when companies decided they wanted to start doing 401ks, did they just go like, we're just going to start doing 401ks? And then they just let that come out of their margins? Maybe. But most decided this is a cost. I'm going to include this as a labor cost. And then they just started charging it as part of their labor costs. And training is a benefit.
Yeah.
It actually, most studies are now showing it's like top 4 pretty consistently of things that people care about. The ability to be developed and to learn and progress. So I think we need to think of training as a benefit. We need to charge for that. That's how we help the industry as a whole get out of it. And we talk about all of this because we're a tool in an effective training culture, learning culture, but we need people to understand how to build that.
Yeah. And you, for people that don't know, you were a heavy civil contractor.
Yeah.
So you knew this. You know this as well as anybody in the struggles that are involved in bidding work, building work.
And training. I cannot tell you how many times we committed to every other Friday we're going to train. We're going to train once a quarter. We're going to train once a month. And life happened and we didn't. And I know that's an excuse. Like Jocko would say, like, that's not extreme ownership. And he's right. It's not. But I also just know, like, we weren't alone.
Yeah.
That many of us were in the same boat. And so this micro training approach, I think, really helps with that.
Well, I think back too to when I was in construction and learning the ropes, and I show up on a job site 18, not knowing anything. No idea. None. If my company had been on BuildWitt training back then, and I had all those videos as a resource, I would have been eating that up every night, so that just almost honestly out of fear, so that I knew just a little bit more and didn't look like an asshole the next day. And then as I became an engineer and I was out on site and I was helping to manage people here or there, I wouldn't necessarily be checking out how to use a cutoff saw or how to use how to put on a mega lug or anything like that. I had that figured out at that point. I would have been looking up, how do I lead people? How do I communicate with people? How do I resolve I would have been eating that up, because that I think that's the biggest missing skill set in the construction industry is effective communication. I think that's the number one missing skill set, effective communication. And there's so much there from all different kinds of people about this topic. And so I just think back to my time in the industry. It's like I wouldn't have needed to be assigned anything. I would have been eating this shit up every night trying to get better, because I was hungry. I wanted to learn. There was no resource. Nothing existed.
Same with me, because I didn't grow up in the industry, but coming into HCSS and taking over marketing, coming out of healthcare. I mean, I grew up with a farming background, but it wasn't construction. So just trying to learn the terminology and I would have eaten it up. And that's one benefit to our training that I haven't seen people take. I know actually we're in conversations with HCSS right now, is providing training to people that support the industry and sell and talk to people in the industry. Just the terminology. And I was laughing. One of our employees saw something where they called it a bulldozer and it was a skid steer, and she's like, "Oh, you got that wrong." It's like, that's a skid steer. And so it's kind of funny learning I think it's a good way for people with employees that didn't grow up in the industry can train on it.
And so we've been going about 2 years now. Like I said, we've got almost 300 customers.
Yeah, like 270 plus.
270 plus, yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. Ranging from an excavation company with 3 people, 2 people, to companies with thousands of people, 5,000 plus.
Yeah, I think our biggest customer, they don't have this many users because we do allow people to buy at the division level.
Yeah.
8,000 employees, I think, is our largest. So
yeah.
And then I think our largest user count will be about 2,200 with the company that's just getting ready to sign.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Plus, you're not standing still, because I know we have our current product and you're working on
Other
next
stuff.
generation of product and already thinking about the next generation after that. So that's kind of fun I bought into HubSpot early on as a marketing tool, and it just kept getting better and better every year. And it was kind of fun to grow with that.
I think that's the exciting thing about software is like this office, for example, you put all this time and energy into it. You build it. It is what it is. And if I want to change the layout of the office, I have to build a new office. And that's going to take years, and I need to go get the capital, and it's and so then you don't iterate very fast. It's like we're stuck with this, and this iteration is not working as well for our business as what we intended initially, but it's like we're not going to go spend more money on this right now. But software, you can iterate so much faster, and you can tear stuff up, throw it away, build upon stuff, and it's to me, I don't totally understand the whole engineering process and the design process and this and that, but it's really cool to see it morph and change and grow, and then you can pull in data, and based on how users are actually using the product, inform the product even further, and it's just constantly building upon what we've created, which I think is so cool.
It's fun. So, I was good at systems and construction, but I definitely am a construction guy. And so I'm grateful that Dane and Ramon and many others have been patient with me as I've come to better understand what it is we're doing. But it's fun to be the person who knows and understands the industry, because it feels like we're doing something special. And what people have seen right now, I mean, in honesty, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Our content, nobody can probably touch our content. Our product's good, but there's lots of improvement there. But we're working on what we're calling Training 4.0, and it'll be out this year, and it levels us up pretty good. And then it starts us on this pathway to next year being really, really exciting on the things we're working on.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I was just talking to a guy at the show. They just signed up. They're up in Ontario.
Okay.
They have a few hundred users. He's the president of the company, and I'm like, this year the product's gonna get a lot better. And he's like, how do you make it better? It's already great. I'm like, oh, trust me. Like, we're gonna level this thing up, and then the next year level it up, and then the next year level it up. It's so cool to just see it like this. It's really just this indefinite project. Something can always improve, and you can improve it pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things compared to like the built world.
Yeah. You have to, though, because like the companies that haven't done that, they get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
There's some like companies that, all of us could probably think about that serve the industry, and they've kind of maybe rested a little bit on their development. And that's not a good business model because everyone else is continuing to iterate. So like we have to be committed to it. I think maybe you were saying something like, maybe it was you, it might have been someone else, something like you have to be ready to cannibalize 25% of your business in a year or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that you? Or did I make that up?
Yeah, I was talking, and it was a company, I think it was Intuit, that each manager had to spend 25% of their time thinking about ways to cannibalize their own product, so that they were always, as Aaron likes to say, a disruptor.
Yeah, big into the disrupting space. Yeah.
But you have to think, if you get complacent, and it's easy to get complacent because you get a big user base, they don't want you to change it. If they like the software, don't change it. This is the way I do my work. They're resistant to change. But if you listen to them, then you'll get stagnant, and people will come along and innovate around you, and you'll be out of business.
Like this whole idea of the dichotomy of leadership that was introduced to me by Jocko reading that book just helped me realize like there's dichotomies everywhere. And I think this is a perfect example of that. It's like you have to listen to the users, but you also have to have the vision to take the users to where they can't see yet.
Right.
And so it's this balance of like hearing them out and improving and listening to them because they use it every day. They have good points, but then also having the perspective and the vision to say like, yes, but we also need to get to here. And it's fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, the only way The only way to avoid the innovator's dilemma is to take that disruption on yourself and to cannibalize yourself. Otherwise, somebody's going to do it for you. If you grow a successful business, you're going to get taken over by somebody else that doesn't have as good a product. It's just simpler. It's easier to use, and people will adopt it, and then they'll go right past you if you're not doing that yourself. And so that's why I like, you're only 2 years old, but you're already on fourth generation and thinking about the fifth. That's what we have to have.
Well, and that's part of the danger of being first as well, is you take a lot of the arrows and you figure out the hard stuff. And like, I've even seen this with marketing in the construction industry in a way. There's a lot of players today compared to 5 years ago when there really weren't any. And once you prove it's possible and show people how to do it, essentially, okay, now there's a proven model. And that, I'm not to say it's easier, but in a way it is, because there's at least a blueprint. And so you don't have to sit there and fall through so many trap doors, which to me is just the motivation to push even more and widen the gap even more, because it's like, the further we go, the more people are going to be looking. And I think that's also where we can leverage more our unique position in the industry. And going to your point too, listening to the customers and the industry feedback, but also from our perspective, which is a very unique perspective in the dirt world, looking out over the dirt world and trying to identify, and then looking at other industries and where's the world going. All right, here's where the feedback is, but here's also where we need to go, which I think sets us apart substantially from XYZ software company that would try to do the same thing.
I have to be careful because sometimes I can come off arrogant.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm not trying to. But this is where I really feel like I've been blessed to have a very unique perspective, because I got to be part of a $4 million family business, grow it to, when I exited, that division was doing $100 million, and I was part of a multi-billion-dollar company. Mm-hmm. So I was part of a company that had 20 employees probably, to a company that had, I think it was something like 4,000 employees or something like that. I don't remember what the number was. It was a big number.
Yeah.
And I got to see like all the different struggles at basically every size of the business. And I got to be part of businesses that did nearly everything in the dirt world. And so it's cool to have all that firsthand knowledge, and then to lean on your experience through the industry and all of, the people we have who are out on the job sites, and use that to lead, talented engineering teams. And so I think it's going to end up being some of our secret sauce. It's just like, we know the industry really, really well, not just from we did it, but we also know how the systems work and mm-hmm. the pain points in the industry. And yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
It's working out so far.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Well, and I think all of us know how not to give up, because like we probably should have given up
many times over,
but we didn't. And I think that's really, like, I tell people all the time, like, one of the things my dad taught me, my dad didn't graduate high school, and he left and went and worked in the oil fields pretty early, like 17. I'm not even sure if you're allowed to do that anymore. Probably not.
Nope. No, you have to be 18.
Yeah. But like, he just taught me how to just endure. And that sounds lame, probably. You shouldn't be enduring, but business isn't easy. And if people tell you it is, they probably haven't done it.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually, at this point in my life, really grateful I've been terrible at everything, because I've developed the skill set necessary to just survive in the world we operate in. I mean, like, the past few years, and you guys could attest to this as well as I can, have been pretty brutal. Not fun. Like, most days, not fun. I have not had a good time over the past few years if I average it out. But I'm really grateful for it. It's why we are where we are. And then that's also why I'm so excited for the future, is like, I feel like in a way we can see the light, and it's like, at least for me, it's starting to be fun again, which is really cool. It's like, oh, okay, like this is fun again. I don't think I was having fun there for a little bit. I think I had the life sucked out of me for multiple reasons. And I feel like this year we're having fun again, which is cool.
Yeah, I think we didn't have a lot of expenses starting off, so we would get a contract from Randy or something that would pay our payroll for months. And so it was a lot of fun at the beginning, and then we started growing as a business and started making almost every mistake you could. And so it was a few years of survival and learning. Now we're kind of coming out of that and we're starting to have success. I don't want to brag too early. We've got a ways to go, but it is starting to be fun, and we're starting to be successful hitting our sales goals, and the team that stuck with us too is, they've been a huge part of it. So that is a lot of fun.
100%.
Is it okay to clarify that being successful right now means we're not losing money?
Yeah, we're not losing money. Yeah. The bar is low. The bar is low. And yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, but yeah, I'm just really fired up. It's like a weights in a way is lifted, and it's like, oh yeah, this is why, like, yeah, we're making the dirt world better. We're building a business. We're developing our people. Like, we're doing what we've always said we would be doing, but I feel like we were just like, we couldn't think about 2025. We had to think about, well, next week, like Friday, how the hell do we survive? And I think we're now out of that fight or flight survival state, so we can think now, like what systems do we need strategically today for next year? We just had that conversation yesterday. That would have not been a conversation 9 months ago. Like we just weren't in that position to even ask that. It was more so like, so what do we need to do this week to make sure we see next week, and to get out of that survival mode to actually be able to think into the future.
Yeah, I actually had somebody ask me, like, hey, like, what's going on at BuildWitt? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, it seems like there's been a lot of change over there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's fair.
There's been plenty of that.
That's fair. There has been. They're like, well, tell me about it. I'm like, honestly, like, it comes from like Bob Chapman. Like, we realized we didn't have the economic engine we needed as a business, and we had to make really tough decisions. And I think it's probably important for people to know and understand, like, those decisions, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. You're a human. They're hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. Like, there's plenty of good people who aren't here because we had to make really tough decisions. But we had to look at, hey, we have a position, we think a position that we owe the industry to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't going to be here to serve the industry because we weren't headed down the right path. And so there has been a lot of change. And it wasn't done lightly, and it hurt, and it stunk. But we had to do it.
Yeah. But the team we have now, I was just talking, I think it was in therapy yesterday. I was just saying, like, it was at dinner last night. I was like, I just fucking love who I work with now. Like, I fucking love what we got going on. I've never been happier with the people I've been working with. Never been happier. This is it. And I just want it to keep going. But it's like, we've got some solid people. Like, sure, we have 100 problems to figure out and this and this and that, but it's like we've just got a really good thing going, and I just want to, like, it's like the flame is going. I just want to keep blowing on it and, like, keep doing my part to keep it going, because if we can keep it going from here, I think we can do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I think, like, that's what I love about team sports is, like, there's people here I probably wouldn't be friends with necessarily outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
But
like
now
me.
I was
about to say, me included.
I mean, we're close in age. I think you might have a kid my age. But there's something about when as a team you're working after a goal and you're struggling together and you're helping each other get to it. You just build a bond that's hard to replicate. Simon Sinek was interviewing. Who was he interviewing? Gosh, I can't remember. Now it's going to drive me nuts. He wrote a book about changing habits. What's the habit book?
James Clear.
James Clear. He was interviewing
Habits, yeah.
James Clear, and he was in Atomic Habits, and he was talking about how even now James Clear looks back, and one of the best times of his career was at a certain company, and how it was just like they were just having fun and they were hitting goals. And I think that's what we're like. It feels like that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Like we're hitting our goals. We're having fun. There's a lot of like organic conversations and people like collaborating, not because there's a meeting, but like we use Slack right now, and it's pretty common for me to look on Slack and to see all these headphones, people doing conference calls there, and then it's like it's cool, it's fun, it's something special right now.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is starting to win financially. And I mean, I was looking at research based on employee satisfaction. When employee satisfaction is the best at companies, it's when the company's financially performing.
Yeah,
it's a direct correlation. There
They're
was
winning.
Yeah, there were no outliers to that. You have to be winning for people to feel like they're achieving something, which is like, yes, and it's the company has to make money to pay for everybody and to keep itself going. And I think it's been skewed into into this completely twisted thing for good reason. I think there are companies out there that are just out to screw everybody. But I think that's been a lesson too. Like I've started to understand the value of winning. Like that is, I think the most important thing you can do for a culture is win.
Yeah. And it's because that's growth.
Yeah.
Like our mission has nothing about us winning. Our mission is changing the industry. But for us to change the industry, we need to have a greater impact. And for our people to like know that they can grow, they have to see us winning, or else there's not a path for them to grow.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I think we're headed the right direction. I look forward to talking about towards the end of the year, like what is training 4.0 and what does training 5.0 look like?
I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's going to be exciting.
I'm just so excited about what's going on right now.
You have to come to the area Dirt World Summit to hear it first.
Yeah, that will be, Randy
has 30 minutes.
He'll be up on the stage with the turtleneck.
Yeah.
And blue jeans.
I really think I should.
I think you should. It would be funny.
Can we do a contest? That, or have you ever seen Randy Savage, the wrestler? He has like an American flag suit coat.
I like that.
That could be a fun suit coat.
Yeah.
We should let the audience pick what I wear.
Pick your walkout song. Get a smoke machine.
They picked out my song this year for me. What was it? It was something like Lizzo or something like
Roar by Katy Perry.
I've never heard of before, but it was funny.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad we can at least give people an update as far as what the heck's going on at BuildWitt. Hopefully people are liking it. I have no idea if people like it or not, but here it is. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll do this in 2026 again.
Awesome. 2026.